Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
I'm Jessie Cruikshank, and I've always been told I have a face for podcasting. So I launched a podcast. It's called Phone a Friend because each week I'll break down the biggest stories in pop culture. But when I have questions, I get to phone a friend. I'll phone a royal watcher to find out why Prince Harry is acting like a real housewife. I'll phone a tween to please explain Euphoria. And maybe I'll even phone a Backstreet Boy to find out if I still have a chance. I don't? Okay. New episodes drop every Thursday wherever you get your podcasts.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
Hello, welcome to the cinema. Cathy here with a very special guest, my big sister Sara.
Hello.
Welcome, Sara. Sara is the last woman standing of my siblings to come on this podcast. Jackie and Elizabeth have been on numerous times and I've never managed to get Sara to come, but I have hustled her to come to see Hustlers with me. Are you excited for this movie?
Oh, I'm very excited. Yeah.
She's not.
I am. I'm excited to be on the podcast.
Sarah and I are on holidays in York. It's a bit of a Mom's Gone Wild weekend. It's involved us eating loads of scones and now we're going to the cinema. So what do you know about this movie? Are you genuinely not interested at all in watching it?
No, I am interested in watching it. I know that J-Lo is a stripper. Is that it? Something about somebody poor who's stripping to get her way through college.
No. Well, I haven't seen the trailer, but I know you have. But I
only watched like 10 seconds of it.
I read a little bit, and it's actually based on a New York Times article, which was a real article about these women who were strippers and like hustled money from really rich bankers and CEOs. So all of that sounds relatively interesting, but what's been surprising about this is that apparently everyone's saying it's amazing and it has brilliant reviews, has this really talented female director, and people are saying like J-Lo's going to be Oscar nominated, it's her best performance since Out of Sight. So I find all of that quite intriguing, and it has a really good cast.
Yeah, so do I. I'm not really sure how I could imagine her getting an Oscar.
Well, she's really good in Out of Sight. Have you seen that?
No.
She's actually a really good actress.
Okay.
She just tends to not be in very
many
movies.
The only thing I've seen her in is Made in Manhattan.
I mean, she rocked that role.
I love Made in Manhattan.
And Julia Stiles is in this from 10 Things I Hate About You.
Oh, I forgot she was in it.
And Constance Wu. So yeah, it's a good female cast, female director.
I was very jealous of Julia Stiles when I was younger. Wasn't she Heath Ledger's girlfriend in that movie?
10 Things I Hate About You. Yeah. So anyway, this should be awesome. Thank you for finally joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Are you excited?
Oh, I'm very excited.
Your children have even been on the podcast.
I know. That's true.
Sarah's children came on and did a bonus Pokemon review for us. So you really are the last woman to come on this
Hi,
podcast.
kids. They'll listen to it at some point.
Yeah, okay. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, and turns out Sarah likes getting to movies really early and watching the trailers, which I hate.
Thanks for saying that.
So now we have to go and watch trailers for half an hour. So Sarah, I hope they're worth it.
Oh, thanks.
Bye.
Shake a little ass, you get a little bag.
These Wall Street guys, you see what they did to this country? They stole from everybody. Hardworking people lost everything. And not one of these douchebags went to jail.
The game is rigged, and it does not reward people who play by the rules.
But it's like robbing a bank, except you get the keys. Are you in?
I got I need a cash. Shit, I need a drink for my life.
These are my coworkers.
Jobs, please.
What if somebody calls the cops?
And says what?
Woo!
I spent $5,000 at a strip club, send help.
Damn.
I could never be royal. It's so good. I'm sorry, that movie was amazing.
Yeah, it was actually.
The music was so good. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I did. I really enjoyed it.
It's really
I thought it was
funny.
brilliant. Yeah. It wasn't that funny, it was sad.
But there was a lot of laughter in the audience though, wasn't there?
Well, I kind of had an issue with that because a lot of the laughter was at the men's expense. And the bit that the people laughed the most at was when like a guy was drugged and the four women were carrying through a car park and stole all his money.
I know. It was something about how the director did it though. She managed to somehow inject humour in almost every scene.
But like if four men were dragging a drugged woman through a car park, no one would laugh.
I know. It was I think it's a very interesting movie because kind of for brief plot synopsis, no spoilers, for people who don't know what this movie is about, it's effectively about these four strippers who take things a little bit far to get money from Wall Street bankers. and end up kind of committing some criminal offences and robbing these men. And yeah, J-Lo is kind of the ringleader. Constance Wu is her young protege. And it has so many fun elements. Like, I love movies when someone's like the mentor teaching the mentee. So you get all that with J-Lo, like teaching her how to dance that pole. And it's really J-Lo doing it. I mean, she's just phenomenal dancer. Oh my God.
She is a brilliant dancer.
Yeah.
But it was more about like 4 women coming together that don't have family. That was the uniting force. And the 4 women come together because they're all the kind of product of a breakdown of their own families. And they're coming together to try and find, basically, when you strip the rest of it away, love and companionship.
And I love movies about female friendship.
So it was...
And lots of money, to be fair. They were also
but it wasn't like they had enough money to start with and then wanted more money. None of them had enough money to start with.
Yeah.
And actually, they were looking for the money to try and live and survive and look after their children. Obviously they got a bit greedy. Like
just a little bit greedy.
No, but when they got really greedy, that was right after things had hit rock bottom for all of them.
Yeah.
And Constance, what's her name? Dorothy.
Yeah.
But like the kind of theme that went the whole way through Dorothy's was that she didn't have enough money to live. And that was...
But then she got a lot of money and she kept doing it.
But she lost it all because her man walked out, or her man was abusive and she was back on her own with the baby. And
it did have one of these things that always fascinates me with in real life and in fiction, when you have people who earn like a lot of money, right? Like she says, like the first year she was doing this, she earned more than a heart surgeon, and like at one point it's
brain
implied
surgeon.
that they're a brain surgeon, they're making like 50 grand in a night kind of thing. And I'm like, but then how are you so broke every time it ends? Like,
yeah, they obviously
save some money.
They obviously didn't save any money.
All they do when they make all this money is just buy more things, and I'm like,
but they were investing in their looks, their clothes, and their outfits.
If I was earning $50,000 a night, like I would be able to retire very quickly.
Yeah, but you're a very sensible person.
I mean, I'm very boring. But yeah, honestly, I think, do you know what? I can see why it's doing so well. And actually, before this morning, I was just like reading the Hollywood Reporter like news on the weekend box office from last week, and they were saying that in the States this is the biggest opening weekend of J-Lo's career.
But J-Lo's, I mean, she's absolutely brilliant. It's a perfect part for her, like,
but it's
and
the
she's
perfect
absolutely
movie for her, I
gorgeous in it, like, and she's so good at what.
She's so good,
yeah.
And it made $30 million in its opening weekend, right?
But you think some people just went like, "Because she's such a babe," and people were like,
"No,"
thinking that she's.
I don't think people would just go to a movie.
I haven't seen her in anything for a long time.
I don't think someone would go to a movie just because, like, the lead's attractive.
True.
Like, it made $30 million opening weekend, and It the Clown, or It Part 2, or whatever it's called, made $40 million.
Did you not like that? No?
I didn't see it.
No.
Hang
on,
but that
$40
made
million.
$40 million. So, as a comparative, this movie made 75% of one of the biggest horror movies of all time. So, like, that's phenomenal. But especially given it's a female director, written by the same woman, a female cast. Like, that's actually really unusual.
I think people would like to see it though, because people like groups of women will go to see that together, and they should. It's really enjoyable.
And it's a really good like caper movie. It reminded me a little bit, but it's not. It's much lighter than it. Did you see Widows?
No.
Yeah, it's a bit like that. But like there is certainly darkness to this movie, but it's like the director did a really funny job of like intercutting humour with really serious moments.
But it kind of downplays how serious what they actually were doing was.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating because
you come away at the end thinking, oh, that's really sweet and J-Lo's so good to such and such, but actually they were massively injuring.
I mean,
criminal.
what they did
was shocking.
But it's quite fascinating how the logic of it is, you get it. It's kind of like the Robin Hood logic. They're like, well, the Wall Street bankers destroyed this country, and then none of them went to prison. So why the fuck should we feel sorry for Wall Street bankers? And like, you kind of go, yeah, you go, girl. Who does feel sorry for Wall Street bankers?
I felt sorry for the women though.
Which women?
Like all of them.
The women doing it?
Yeah.
I didn't feel sorry for them. I empathised with them and I understood their rationale, but I certainly didn't.
But like when you took away the,
they were spraying themselves in champagne and like physically throwing money around. I didn't feel sorry for them.
Look what they had to do to get it though.
Yeah,
and two of them wanted to go to university and they couldn't afford it, and they were looking after children on their own.
Yeah, of course. I empathise. Like, I feel bad for the situation, but like, they weren't probably the most sympathetic characters in the world.
Well, like, it did show that they tried to earn money different ways and that they couldn't live off the minimum wage. And obviously, like, there's other solutions to being a stripper and
I don't think there's any
stealing
solution.
and drugging.
I think drugging Wall Street bankers is a pretty darn good way to go about
But
taking
also,
your money.
it made you... I mean, they were all lying to their wives. Every one of them was a cheat.
I know,
every single man, but then they might argue they're not cheating.
Well, they just thought they were having some drinks with some nice gals. The next day they wake up.
No,
and
but
they
the
don't know
ones
what hit them.
before that.
Yeah.
Before it was dodgy.
Interesting how the kind of pre and post Wall Street crash, like pre and post 2008, how they Sarah's not used to walking around and doing podcasts around. We're actually walking around View Car Park.
It's beautiful.
We do this a lot in View Staines, but I've never done it in View York before. Side note: don't ever go to View York Cinema. It's absolutely horrible. Like, most people come to York and enjoy the culture. We went to the absolute worst cinema that the city had to offer.
My favourite bit about the movie was the music.
The music,
the
was
piano,
brilliant.
the piano music the way through it was absolutely beautiful.
It was like a good mix of like kind of hip hop and like classical.
No, but the classical piano was really nice.
It was lovely.
Yeah.
So we should go to Spoiler Street. Definitely recommend this movie for anyone, male or female. Equal amounts of laughs and genders, I thought, in attendance here.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I do, yeah, I definitely do recommend it.
Okay.
And I think the main thing about this movie was that actually when families break down, like did for every one of those strippers, their home situation had broken down and they needed each other to care for each other, though. That's what they all needed.
And like mixing up MDMA and ketamine. It's a hard life.
I mean, actually,
We're
that
on
was...
Spoiler Street now, right? On
Alright,
Spoiler
sorry.
Street for this movie. Now, again, it's real life, so how much can you spoil real life? But it is real life, and it's not a story I knew beforehand. Gonna go off and read the article now, though. We're on Spoiler Street. The movie's kind of set up in that they're actually telling the story to the journalist who writes the eventual piece, who was played by Julia Stiles. Bit disappointed. I thought Julia Stiles was going to be one of the strippers.
Did you want to see Julia Stiles stripping? Like?
No, I just wanted to see her in The Caper, but she played quite a serious role, which is more standard for her. Like, I thought we'd see her in a different role. Not that she wasn't in Save the Last Dance and very good in it.
But I thought it was the best, the bit of the movie that kind of, for me, was when she was like, oh, you know, I grew up kind of with money. But she didn't. She grew up rich.
She said we grew up comfortable.
Comfortable, yeah. But she went to like a private university and everything.
Yeah.
And that was when the other girl was like, you don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. What would you do for $1,000? Not what we did for $1,000.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. And then in the end, they kind of really didn't receive major punishment for their crime.
But you know what I liked at the end?
What?
Sorry, I don't really know how this works. Am I allowed to say something that happened in it now?
You were on Spoiler Street.
We're on Spoiler Street.
You can also tell Sarah never listens to the podcast. It's
I
fine.
do. No, I do. I do. I listened to them when my kids were on. I've forgotten what I was going to say now. Oh, at the end, she let down her friend to be there for her daughter.
Yeah, which like you have to do, right?
No, but not. No, the other one didn't.
Well, it was prisoner's dilemma. She thought we'll all say we're innocent, we'll get a lawyer, will never do it. But one person always breaks in prisoner dilemma. Like,
Yeah,
and
but
this
I
person
thought that
did.
was important. Like, she didn't leave her. Like, her mum had left her,
And she didn't.
and she didn't leave her daughter.
Yeah.
So at the end of that, she took a criminal record for the rest of her life.
But like they escaped with zero punishment. They just J-Lo.
Yeah, but she's basically unemployable criminal forever.
But she was
like,
unemployable anyway before this, hence her getting into the hustling. Like, she couldn't get a job anyway, like even in a shop.
Yeah, but
was
she
trying to get one.
tried to do the right thing at the end
Yeah.
for her daughter. Like,
But it's
she could
fascinating. I
have. She
can't
could have
believe-
kept going. Like,
I can't believe they didn't. Like, J-Lo's character got 5 years probation, no time served. Constance Wu got no charges. And the other women
Yeah, but
spent
they-
a couple of weekends in prison.
what would you? Would you like spend a couple of weekends in prison?
No, but I'm just saying, given they were like actually drugging people and stealing from them.
Yeah, but the other thing
punishment
is,
doesn't fit the crime.
no, it doesn't. But the other thing is, and this is true. Like, the men were all cheating on their wives and telling a pack of lies, and happy to be brought along to a club with.
They were, for
They
sure.
were,
But the
like-
guy that they eventually got brought down by was doing none of those things. He was literally minding his own business in a restaurant, and they drugged and stole from him.
True.
You know, so
True.
they obviously crossed the line, and it's that classic thing with any kind of criminal caper. It's like, quit while you're ahead. Quit while you're
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, it was a few times in the movie, and you were like, "Just stop! You've
Yeah.
got enough money.
Because up
Stop!"
until a certain point, it was actually all the evil bankers like cheating on their wives and throwing money around, and then suddenly it stopped being that, and you just think, oh, this is when you need to stop now. Like, don't just be robbing innocent men of their money. And like
Some of the men, though, you didn't feel that sorry for
no,
them.
some of them you didn't. And there was one really awful bit when Constance Wu, when this guy, she realises after a couple of years away from stripping and like post Wall Street crash, what's now expected of the strippers, like in terms of actually performing sexual favours, that had not been the case before. And was really sordid, that scene. That was quite depressing.
And then she was supposed to get whatever amount of money, and she only got a fraction of it.
Yeah. So yeah,
but that's what I mean. Like, they were trying. It was to.
I mean, I have to say, I admire the hustle. Like, I really admire the hustle.
So
they took it too far, but
the moral of this movie is Cathy's going to quit the day job.
no, I just think they took it too far, and they should never have been drugging people. But before they started doing that, and they were just kind of overcharging these men for the services, like at that point I didn't feel bad for the men at all, because they got themselves voluntarily into those situations.
Yeah, and the men were
after that, when they
terrible,
started
like,
drugging the men and like actually giving them ketamine, I felt bad for the men, because
there was
no one deserves to be given drugs, like,
no,
they didn't ask
no,
for.
that's what I mean, when they were carrying the drugged man through the car park and his legs were like dangling, and everyone in cinema was like, ha ha.
But there was
like, if that was a woman being dragged through a car park, you'd phone 999.
When they were like baking the ketamine, and,
yeah,
like,
that was
funny,
yeah.
like.
Or when she brought the dog to the private room where she was doing the orgy, and the dog was looking out of the hand. Like, I think that was my favourite bit, actually.
I think it's a really stylish movie, and I think it's really going to hold up. You know the way like you enjoy movies and they come and go, but like I think this movie will just hold up for a long time and actually be a bit of a classic. Kind of feels like Swingers or something like that. It has that feel.
But
of
I think there's something to learn from it. Like,
what?
Like, people will do desperate things when they're in poverty. Now, obviously, that's the extreme, but they will, because all of that started out because that they didn't have enough money, and all of that started out because they were from homes that weren't functioning properly, and they were
but
up shit
Candice Wu's
creek,
character did have a loving grandmother, and like
but she was massively in debt, and that was the first scene. She'd sold her necklace from her husband because she'd no money.
I'm just saying, like, yes, you can take that from it, but also it's just like kind of funny. Like, I don't know. I don't think I take it as seriously as what you've taken it in that sense. Like, J-Lo was grand. Like, she didn't need, like, she lived in a penthouse on the Upper East Side.
Yeah, but to
of New York.
keep the penthouse, to keep her penthouse.
It's really hard when you live in a penthouse and you may not get to live there.
And
anymore.
also, Cathy, they had to pay for the ketamine. Like, there was what's that called? Outgoings.
And they bought like a new dress for every night, just in case the men realised it was the same dress.
The stupidest thing about the movie was that they did the hustle in the same bar every night at the same table.
Yeah, that was stupid.
So, and then they were like worried about getting caught. You're obviously going to get caught by the bar staff, who'll be like,
though the bar staff, they said everyone was in on it. Literally everyone was getting caught. But yeah, anyway, I'm so glad we got to go to cinema together. It's been about
Cathy, we made
20 years.
When have we ever gone to cinema? The Lion King, when it came out.
Probably the last time we went to cinema together. Thank you for coming on.
I'll come on in another 20 years.
Yeah, it's going to be a long time again before we go to the cinema together. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
I hope you liked Hustlers. Let us know what you thought.
Let us know if you thought it was a commentary on poverty, or if you thought it was
just a fun caper.
Just a fun caper.
Or if you think these women are deplorable and the movie should never have been made, glorifying what they did.
And you really have to do some soul searching if you laugh when they drag the drugged man across the car park. Because if you do, then you're just as bad as everyone else.
I'd say the laugh hit rate in this movie, I'd say there was at least 20 laughs in the audience. Like, it's properly one of the funniest movies I've seen in ages. Like, I don't laugh that much at actual movies that are billed as comedies. So you let us know what you think. Tweet, Instagram or Facebook at the cinemile@gmail.com, or head over to iTunes and subscribe and rate us. That would be awesome. Okay, bye.
So the guy went back 3 more times. Guess he must have liked it.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What do you do when no one else is watching? What do you do that makes you happy for no reason at all? What are you obsessed with? I'm Leslie Arfin, and I'm a writer, but I'm also a dancer, a painter, a vapor, a dollhouse enthusiast, and basically just an overall hobbyist. My podcast, Filling the Void, is all about what other people are fanatically into. We talk about hobbies, even if you don't have one.
Listen to Filling the Void on Tuesdays on the Erios Network, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.